Sunitha, how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching now for 4 years.
And how long have you been teaching the flipped class?
For almost 3 years.
Okay, now this method of teaching is really different than the typical lecture classroom.
Yeah.
How have things affected you and your teaching style?
Actually, when I picked up this program, it was quite like what my teaching style is, to keep the students engaged and keep the discussion open in the class. That's why I picked up the method, and it has affected my students a lot. It has helped them to understand the material better, and they feel motivated to do stuff in the class now that they are more engaged.
So why do you think that this is working better for the students?
Yes, it is really working for the students because I get time to clarify the concepts they have missed in the past or maybe forgotten because they haven't been to school for a few years. So it motivates them that there is still time to catch up and they can learn those concepts and move forward.
Now, have the students been comfortable? Do they feel like there's more work involved by using this method?
Surely they do feel overwhelmed at times because amount of times they have to do the same problem, maybe more than what they expect. But when they realize that it is in their benefit, that when they make mistake and they learn, the correction is done right away in the class, and the other students make mistakes too. So that kind of gives them the confidence that they are not the only ones making those errors. There are other students and people do struggle and then they learn by their mistakes. So it kind of, motivates them, builds their confidence that they're not the only ones, So I think it gives them motivation to keep working.
Okay, so how do you encourage your students to do their homework before coming to class?
I encourage them by putting whatever they are struggling with on a cover sheet. We have this cover sheet where they can write out exactly where they did not understand the lecture, what are the stumbling blocks when they were doing the questions, where they got stuck. They can put everything on the paper and give it to me beginning of the class, and then we go over their questions. That really helps them, to understand more because they have actually heard the lecture once before they come.
Sunitha, how has this class affected you?
I think this class has made me more creative, and it motivates me as well because the amount of satisfaction you get after seeing the progress of your students, that is what keeps me going, teaching and becoming more and more creative, how more I can help students. When they seek out help, I feel like really happy and excited that they are coming out of their shell and now they are actually beginning to ask questions which they don't normally in the lecture classes. So that keeps me going, like at least they are taking a step to understand the material, to get their fears of math over with. So that is the way, like it has changed me.
Okay. What advice would you give instructors who are thinking about using this new method of teaching?
So the advice I would give is that you have to be really patient. A lot of patience is what is required, and a lot of energy is required to take care of this type of class, because you cannot enter the class prepared. You may know your content, but you do not know the questions students will come up with. So you'll have to be on your toes during those 1 hour 40 minutes, and you'll have to continuously think of how to keep the students engaged throughout the class so they can learn the material better. So my advice would be just hold on and keep patient, but the end result will be really satisfying and you will be contented that you actually use this material.
Absolutely. My name is Scott Budzine.
And how long have you been teaching, Scott?
This is actually my second semester teaching the Math 091-105 course. However, this is actually my 6th year here at UW Waukesha.
And tell me, I mean, this is a pretty big change in teaching styles. So what did you have to do to prepare yourself to teach a flipped class?
Well, I think the largest change was really the fact that students were coming in prepared for the lectures. So I had to be more flexible as an instructor and make sure that I was building upon the foundation that students already arrived with.
Can you tell me what you like about teaching the 091-105 course?
I think my favorite part about it is that students will come in with such a variety of questions, and they arrive to class already with that foundation. And so it's so wonderful to have the opportunity to build on something that's already there rather than try to create something out of nothing. So the other part that I like the most is that students who are in the class tend to ask questions that are very deep in nature. And so I've never had a course before where I've had opportunities to address some of those deeper concepts.
Okay, speaking of the students that you were just talking about, is there a certain kind of student that is better suited for a flipped class?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that students who work well in the absence of structure, in the sense that they're self-motivated, they're students who generally can work through assignments independently, are willing to struggle a little bit in order to gain mastery over topics. Those are students who are very well suited for the course. I would say students who have more difficulty in those areas, who maybe lack some basic student skills, may find that a different format works better.
Have you found that you have to really work hard to encourage students to come to class with their homework already done?
You know, at first, certainly there is a front-end investment, but honestly what I found is that if you're willing to put that investment in, like I said, this is my second semester teaching the course, and so if you're willing to put that front-end investment in, you're building a habit, and that's a habit that really stays with students throughout the semester, and we hope throughout their whole academic career.
Do you have a backup plan if they don't do their homework?
Well, so far I actually haven't had to deal with that so much. Like I said, my strategy is more to make sure that I'm putting the front-end investment in. So for me, that means each day I write down on the board what their assignment is. We actually go through it together. I ask them to take their planner out and write it down, even if it's something that I repeated the class before. And so far, it's worked. I also, in addition to just writing the assignments down, of course, I have the assignments in the syllabus. I also email students. So they really have a very clear idea of what's expected of them from class to class.
Do you think you're spending more time preparing for this class than you would a normal traditional class?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. The time that I spend for this class is just making sure that I'm prepared to address any of the questions, especially those deeper questions that students may have. But I think now that this is my second semester, I think that the amount of time is roughly equivalent to what I would spend in any other class. So certainly the first time through, it was a large investment on my part, but now that I'm on my second semester, it's definitely become just as manageable as any other class.
What advice would you give a veteran teacher who's switching from their traditional classroom to this flipped method?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give any instructor is just to keep an open mind throughout the course of the semester. You'll find that this course has so many rewards if you're open to it. The other part that I would have, the other piece that I would suggest for instructors is simply to remain flexible. This course, unlike any other course you've probably taught before, is going to involve a lot a lot of direction that students initiate. So you just need to be prepared to answer any of those sorts of questions that students might have that you may not ordinarily see in just a traditional math course.
I have one last question. Some of the statistics have shown that this program is really successful for students. Why do you think it's successful?
You know, I think first and foremost, most of the credit needs to go to the students. I think that, you know, especially my first semester, I was so fortunate and blessed to have a wonderful group of students who are willing to work hard, to put in the investment. But one of the reasons why I also think that it's successful is because of the structure of the course. I think that encourages and promotes success. And here's what I mean by that. So students are not only getting the videos, which provide a nice foundation, but in addition to that, they're getting workbook exercises, and then in addition to that, they're actually getting ALEKS exercises. And I think all three formats really hone student skills as well as their conceptual understanding.